Now, closer to home, European leaders in Brussels have pledged that a vaccination passport scheme will be open to British travellers in time to save the summer holidays. A proposal for what they call a digital green pass is expected to be put forward by the European Commission in order to kickstart tourism by the end of June. Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President, announced the plan after EU leaders agreed that a COVID-19 certificate or passport would need to be in place by summer. Michael Peel is European diplomatic correspondent at the Financial Times. Afternoon to you, Michael. So just explain what this is, the green certificate. What does it mean in reality? This is largely for EU citizens, is that right?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ian. Yes, it's aimed at people living in the EU, so EU citizens and residents. And the idea is to help revive the devastated travel and tourist industry. It's been pushed very hard by particular Greece, with support from other countries that have big tourism industries. And as you say, the idea is to make it easier for people to get moving once that's safe to do so.
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly a school of thought out there that some countries are so desperate to kickstart that they're not even bothered about passports or anything. Just get your backside over here and start spending your money. That kind of thought.
Yeah, and clearly there's the debate is around what is responsible to do and when.
Yeah.
Particularly as the vaccine rollout in the EU has been slower than notably in the UK. But also that there are also questions about fairness, that if you give extra rights to someone because they've had a vaccine but deny them to someone else, so they can't travel even though they just haven't had their turn in the queue, it's not their fault they didn't get the vaccine, but they can't travel. And there are also questions about the epidemiology of it, and are we absolutely sure that people are a low risk of infection once they've been vaccinated? In other words, they might not get very sick, but they might still be able to pass on the disease. The early signs on that are encouraging. It does seem to reduce that transmission as well, but obviously more work needs to be done on that.
Yeah. What do they mean when they say this will be open to British travellers? I mean, would it not be open to any travellers who've got one of the passports?
Yeah, I mean, the idea, I think, eventually, if it takes off, would be to allow movement initially within the EU Schengen travel zone of more than 25 countries, but also potentially to allow movement from outside with people who've had approved vaccines. So yeah, in theory, if you have a country like the UK, which is ahead on vaccination, and the vaccines the UK is using are the same ones approved in the EU, then there ought to be no reason in principle why a British traveller wouldn't be able to use those to travel in the EU.
On that point, Michael, thank you. Great information. Michael Peel, European diplomatic correspondent at the FT, with us here on Talk Radio. This in from Anonymous. Funny that. So tell us then, who's standing up to China? Your mate, Sleepy Creepy Joe. Is it my mate? Is that aimed at me? Well, I think Joe Biden's possibly the worst president in history. And he's only been there half an hour. So I don't know quite how my endorsement kicks into this. Your mate unless he's aiming this at somebody else, your mate Sleepy Joe in bed with China. I don't know if he's in bed with China. He seems rather neutral at the moment. The EU love them. Who's left? I'm not sure I don't know what that means. If you could, in order to answer a not particularly intelligent question, I would need a little bit more information about the question. The EU love China. How does that manifest? Just give me some info, and I'll try and give you a reasonable answer. My overarching point is that it would be extraordinary if the only person in the human gene pool that was capable of standing up to Donald Trump, standing up to China, would be Donald Trump, right? I think we could all agree on that. So they've checked all the different predispositions of the human condition, and it turns out that Donald J. Trump has a special kind of stand-up to China gene that no one else has got. No one who works in diplomacy, in the civil service, in government, in party politics, in any country on the whole planet has this gene. Only Donald J. That would be weird, right? Which leads me to wonder whether there are other ways you stand up to China. I mean, standing up at a podium saying, I will not let the Chinese get in the way, blah, 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 blah. That's not standing up to China, by the way. It's sounding like you're standing up to China. So we will have heard a lot of that. Actually imposing sanctions that are game-changing for an economy is standing up to China. But in order to do that, you would have to have such an inquiry to prove that China's negligence on coronavirus was so seismic and game-changing that it affected countries elsewhere. You'd have to do that, because if you didn't do that, you'd end up with a Wild West scenario where any country could just point to another one and say, let's sanction them, because we don't much like the cut of their jib. So I understand it. So whilst Donald Trump shoots from the hip, I think there's probably a wider diplomatic game needs to be played in the longer term. And then, of course, there's the other rather more uncomfortable reality that China is pretty powerful and is likely to continue to be pretty powerful. What do you do with that? Some of these are the reasons why Donald Trump isn't any longer the president, by the way. But nonetheless, the mood music he made, I've said it consistently, that's a start. The mood music is a start. You've got to follow it through.